Hi, I'm DeCicco Remu. Welcome. This is Teacher Talk.
Everybody, this is episode 7 of How to Talk to Teachers, a series of webcasts and podcasts where I bring in some really forward-thinking education leaders from around the world to help parents navigate school systems and advocate for their children in partnership with educators. Our topics have included things that are top of mind for parents, including well-being and technology. So we've had really great guests to help us understand AI and assessment in the last 2 weeks. So what's happening with AI in education and how are we looking at assessment practices today? So I thought it would be really interesting to put those two together and look at how AI is going to affect assessment. So what grade is AI going to give your child today and in the future? So blending those two will be really interesting, and because AI is really poised to significantly transform the way assessment practices in education are happening, offering both challenges and opportunities. So Corinne Hoisington is one of my favorite people. She's a full-time professor at Information Systems Technology at Central Virginia Community College in Lynchburg, Virginia. And she also works alongside Fair Chance Learning, our friends here in Canada, Martha and Dustin Jez, do what she does best in Canada. And she's also does a lot of stuff worldwide. She's authored over 30 textbooks with Cengage and National Geographic, and her latest is in AI in business. It's going to be available in the summer for high school students, college students, parents, and the corporate world. So very important work. She's written so many books. She's fascinating. I heard her speak and was hooked, and I'm a huge fan. She's spoken all over the world. She's traveled like 200,000 miles a year to do keynotes and motivational talks around what's happening in technology in the world and in the workplace, and also does her work in education. So she's done 70 cities to date. You know, you do those things on Facebook, and how many cities have you visited? Corinne would blow that out of the water. She's been to Johannesburg, Sydney, Wellington, Prague, all these places. And we're really, really lucky to have her here with us today to give us some of her insight and what she sees going forward. So welcome, Corinne. It's such a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you. Where have you been? Where are you coming at us from? Are you home? Are you in Brazil? Are you in somewhere?
Everywhere. Hey, Leah, so glad to be a part. And I've known Leah for quite some time. She just always has her thumb on the pulse of what's happening in education. So I'm so proud of what you're doing. And thank you for letting me be a part. Hey, so today I'm in North Carolina presenting at a big conference tonight. But this week has been a little busy. Started out in Brazil in São Paulo, on to Oregon, Spain, and North Carolina. I was just in Canada just 2 weeks ago. So love sharing what's happening in this environment. I usually call my material in the blink of an AI because it has changed that fast.
It's incredible. And like I said, I'm a huge fan. I applaud the work that you do. I love to learn from you. I love to watch where you're going and who you're talking to and gain your insight. So I know what you do, and I think it's fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, so I teach in the classroom. I teach both high school and college students in kind of a dual enrollment capacity. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing out there is since ChatGPT and other tools came on the scene just 2 years ago, it really has fostered a lot of new thoughts. You know, up to now, I always thought, technology, there was always something new every year, and we all kind of jumped on the bandwagon. But what I want you, everyone and all of our parents to understand is this has been exponential. It's like we now have everything in place. We're not going 3 steps forward. We're going 3,000 steps forward, not this year, but this month. So this is really a moment, at least in my career, probably the biggest leap we've ever taken.
Yeah, that's really well said. That's a great way to look at it. 3,000 steps, 300,000 steps. It's monumental, the change that is happening right now. And it really is an honor to be part of this and to be having this discussion to help. And I think we're both very much on the pulse of that. We lead with our hearts because we really want to help with the kids. So thank you for the work that you're doing. But what are you seeing worldwide? I mean, we should have a little plane everywhere, every time you go somewhere, Corinne, so we can follow along. What are you seeing worldwide with
One of the
education, with
most
AI education?
fascinating stories recently is I was in Dubai in the UAE, and they're in an interesting situation. They know their oil, which kind of pays for their whole economy, is really going to be over within the next 15 years. Kind of shocking. I mean, throughout the entire Gulf region. So they're now looking at education and saying, okay, instead of having our worker bees, I'll say that. In other words, right now, only about 18% of the people really live there. 82% come in and do their plumbing and their, cleaning of their homes and corporate things. So they've been able to afford that, but that's about to shift. So what they're doing is looking at all the opportunities and new jobs that are coming up for their kids as they are now in kindergarten or grade 1. And what will they look like? So I've been sitting down with them and saying, okay, the new top jobs in the world are going to look very different. It used to be doctor, lawyer, right? Now the number one job in the world is machine learning engineer. I have to tell you, I've never even heard of that just a few years back. So really to kind of look at what are the jobs that are growing, because we want our kids to kind of take those roles. They don't want to go into something that is game over. And there are a lot of fields that are shifting. For example, financial advisor. That used to be a great job, right, Leah? I mean,
I was one. Were you? I think we were all somehow, because we're so stable. Our parents were like, go be a banker.
yeah,
Right?
go be a banker. We want
Yeah.
our kids to do this. But last year, worldwide, companies like Goldman Sachs, the average income made by investing people's money last year was about 4.7%. Not bad. I'd be pleased. But if you would have invested in AI predictors that look at the stock market and worldwide markets that way, you would have made 14.1% last year.
Whoa. That's a really great place to pin, because if we couch this, if we put this in a way that parents will think about their kids' careers and the skills they need to be successful in their careers, the importance of AI is penultimate right now.
Yeah, really.
And what it's going to do to education and how kids learn. I do talk about this in the book. So please have a look at that chapter. I don't want to reiterate what's in the book, but I want to understand more about how AI is going to be marking my kids' work. Because right now, according to the conversation I had with Mr. Christopher Federico, who's the head of the Roper School in Detroit, he's got some really great insight in how we're assessing today. So parents need to understand that, how we assess today. But how is AI going to affect how we assess tomorrow? And, we both ChatGPT'd this. And we use it. Like, there's no shame in it. We use it. That doesn't mean I'm reading off it or I cut and pasted it. And, it was interesting because we got the same hit. So there's personalized assessment and feedback immediately, reduction of bias, formative assessment and continuous learning, all these great things, automatic grading, creative and complex assessment, data-driven insights, right?
Yeah.
New assessment models, all this good stuff, the ethics around it.
Yeah.
So are you seeing anybody around the world starting to use AI in assessment, and what does it look like?
Yeah.
And how will I know? And how do we be transparent about it, and how can parents understand it?
So let me start with a story. So when I was teaching recently, a student, 16 years old, not doing well in my class at all, I talked to her after class privately, and I said, how can we get you to pass this class? And she was very forthright. She looked at me and she said, here's the deal. She said, I have an A in every one of my high school classes but yours, and I'm failing yours. And I said, well, okay, how can I be an A teacher, right? I always like to see it in both ways. And she
Love
said,
that. Just let me pause and love that you were thinking critically and being reflective about that. That is so important.
So she responded, she said, well, here's the deal. In all those other classes, I'm doing my homework with things like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. These are some of the AI tools that are out there. She said, and the teachers have no idea. I have a straight A. I can finish my homework in under 1 minute flat. But in your class, you're expecting me to think. You are doing homework different. I'll show you in a moment. And because of that, it's going to take me a while to do your assignments. So you're going to have to be patient. And I thought, oh my goodness, where are we in education? And a lot of schools initially will say, okay, I've got this. What we're going to do is lock it and block it. So we're not going to let them have any of these AI tools in the classroom because then we can totally control it. Well, that sounds good in theory, but how can we block what 90% of jobs are looking for, according to Business Insider, on students' resumes one day? They're looking that you know how to master AI tools. And if we're going to lock it and block it, well, that doesn't seem totally right. But one thing that students all seem to have in the classroom, at least older kids, well, they've got these mobile devices. Yeah. So they can do their homework in 1 minute flat, and maybe, just maybe, the teacher wouldn't know about it. So let me show you how I'm shifting it. Would it be okay if I share my screen?
Please do.
Yeah, so I thought I would just kind of be a little more visual. I want to take a look at something kind of educational, but I'll make sure we get it. This is something that's been around a long time. It's called Bloom's taxonomy, and I promise to make it exciting. And notice, as I'm speaking, my voice is being shown up in AI. When I teach in a classroom, I can have my voice displayed on everyone's device, and I can pick one of 80 different languages, that way leveling that playing field. But hey, what most teachers, because it's hard to go any higher, a lot of times we're just happy to get students to remember. Look in this red line at the bottom. So we use multiple choice questions, fill in the blank. Maybe write a paragraph on. Sound familiar, Leah?
Yep.
But how about if we could use AI for assessment to go higher up the scale? And what I mean by that is maybe even getting them to the top. And I have to tell you, as a student, it's really boring to memorize all of the different words and spelling words and even higher level stuff. But if we can create or to be the next round of inventors, now we're talking, hey, that could be kind of interesting. And if teachers just put out assignments that make students just remember, let me just show parents what I mean exactly. So we've all heard of ChatGPT, but I'm going to go to a different one. I'm at a website called Claude.ai. It's free. There's paid versions, but, here we are. It says, "Good afternoon, Corinne. So let's pretend I am a high school student in a Toronto-based school, and I'm being, kind of naughty. So what I'm going to say is, let's say my teacher, Leah, has just asked me to write 500 words about photosynthesis, whatever it is. And if that's what my teacher has asked, you see, why are you not using ChatGPT? I think this Claude does a beautiful job of writing clearly, kind of something. And you've noticed what first comes out is very what I call pretty smart, doesn't it? Photosynthesis is one of the most fundamental biological processes on Earth. I'm using the voice just to show you it sounds, it does not sound like a high school student. But if I just go up and hit edit and say, write this for a 12-year-old to understand, it changes entirely. And sometimes students are knowing to do this because they know that first one would never fly with the teacher. But if I would have said, think of plants as tiny solar-powered factories that make their own food. Pretty cool, right? Photosynthesis is that amazing process that makes it happen. So if I copy and paste this, I don't think the teacher would be any wiser. And we have a lot of great teachers. It's not them. It's just getting harder and harder to determine, is it their work or not? Now, when you're in a secret classroom, you kind of know what people are using. But for homework, do you see a problem, Leah?
No. You know what? I'm so glad that you modeled this and you showed this to us in the book. So again, here's the plug for the book. I did the same thing, and I used Tell Me the History of Tomato Sauce, because you know I'm Italian, I love to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I did the same thing and said, now write this to me in Shakespearean language to showcase what it can do. But you've done it so beautifully with the voice of a 12-year-old. I've never seen that, never thought that. So thank you for that. But my question then becomes, great. So ChatGPT, and I know this is what parents are thinking. ChatGPT gives me this output that a teacher can't really tell if it's been generated by the child or an AI platform. How do we extend what ChatGPT is doing for us so seamlessly, so beautifully? And it's only going to get better, and we can't fight this.
Yeah.
To really zone in on learning and thinking and creating, which again, we're both aligned. This is all in my book. It's about thinking and creating, and that kind of output that is underpinned with what ChatGPT can give us. That's why I think it gets interesting. So please continue, because I'm fascinated.
If we want them to get past the remember and just copying, pasting what's out there, what was happening to that student in all those other classes, education up until really now is always kind of based. Think of you as parents when you were in school. It was based on recall and memorization. And if that's what really education is, well, then we're really kind of in trouble. And you see, well, these schools have these AI writing detectors. There's some slick salespeople that are selling to these schools. Sorry, but it's true.
And some of them are friends, and we love you.
Yes, we are. But honestly, the best ones out there are about 70% correct. And we really can't call up a student on that, something that could lead to false accusations. And then I had a teacher say, hey, Corinne, I've got it. What I'm going to do is make sure they just handwrite all their assignments. Well, I mean, that's handwritten, right? So let's go a different direction. I mean, I don't see prevention and banning it from our schools. That's not going to make sense. We want to use this as a powerful tool in education, but maybe it's a chance to kind of rethink assessment. And I think you're seeing why. I mean, we're going to have to do something different. First of all, it's important that the teachers put some kind of verbiage about what they're allowing to use with ChatGPT and other open AI platforms with generative AI use. By the way, just recently in the last week, a student in Boston, actually he and his parents called a lawsuit onto the Boston City Schools because the student was given an assignment in grade 9. He used ChatGPT, turned it in. The teacher said, this isn't your work. I'm going to allow you to rewrite it, or I'm going to give you a 0. And the student said, well, I'm just using the tools that are out there. You don't have any verbiage in your syllabus. So we don't know how that lawsuit will turn out, but I think it's going to be one of many. So what a weird moment. So, and if a student uses ChatGPT or something like this in an MLA paper or APA, there's now like an MLA format to put it at the end. But let me show you some things I really want you to know. This next slide is about the World Economic Forum. So this is kind of worldwide, and we're looking at this in a worldview level. It used to be what a student needed to have to get a great job out there. It used to be memorization, people skills. Leah, you've heard it, right?
Yep.
So now look at this. Oh my goodness. Number 1 is we want students to be creative. Or remember that top of Bloom's taxonomy? We want them to think. They want to invent something, create something, not just spit back. And look at number 7. Leah, read that to me.
AI and big data.
Oh my goodness, right? I mean, if you look through these, a lot of these have to do with being a lifelong learner, thinking differently, understanding technology. So if a school is locking it and blocking it, I don't think we're doing well for that student. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about in the past how what we're doing inside the classroom is not reflective of what's going on outside the classroom.
Yeah.
So it's a big incongruency. It's really tough for kids because they're like, what am I doing? Why am I learning this? How is this going to help me in my life? And why do I need this?
Yeah.
Right? Why is it even relevant to what I'm doing outside? So they're having to sneak these tools
Yeah.
that are reshaping the way we live into our education systems, which to me is a real mind bender, because we have to learn as teachers and as parents to accept these tools and use them mindfully and with intent, as opposed to them using them on social media or things that can be hurtful. Nothing wrong with social media if you're using it properly and with limits. It's all in the book. And we know Giancarlo Brotto has some great data around how we use technology and why. But there's still this lock and block. I love the way you've used that word around, no, we're just not going to use it.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense, because you've just packaged this so beautifully. It's what's here. It's what's going to be dictating jobs and careers in the future for your kids. So instead of blocking it, how about, and Giancarlo suggested this, Giancarlo Brotto, you sit with your kids while they're doing their homework and use it and see how to use it mindfully. Nobody's saying copy and paste it.
Right.
It's getting smarter. We're going to have to figure out when that happens, what to do as teachers and how to mitigate that. But I still, and we don't know, we're figuring this out, even with having this discussion, how do we capture thinking?
Yeah.
And is it creation? It's about thinking and creation. And I play with all of this in the book. But I'd love your do you have any idea? And anybody even talking about that?
Let me now we kind of know the problem.
Yes.
Let's shift this, but let me start here. I mean, this is really big picture, but what is the purpose of education? And up until now, it was just, let's memorize or summarize some body of knowledge and then get it assessed, multiple choice, fill in the blank, you know, the test. Mm-hmm. And if that is what education really is, then this is the biggest existential threat we've ever seen. But let me now turn the page and talk about how maybe educators and hopefully parents with those educators can start changing what education looks like. And look at that second bullet. I'm hoping that the purpose of education is really to nurture a relationship to transform the child. So in other words, how does that student see the world? Let me give you a simple example, because sometimes we throw around all this big words and it's like, okay, what needs to change here? I want you to imagine a grade 6 student and the teacher's talking about, you know, making sure we save the earth, the planet, eco-friendly. And the topic comes up is how do we get rid of computer waste? Old computers, old phones. So instead of having the student write 500 words, because I think we know what might happen if we did, and according to the Department of Education in the US, 94% of middle and high school students are using it for homework, whether they've been
that
told
many?
it's okay. Yeah.
Did you say 94%?
94% already. It's like we as
Already.
teachers and parents are late to the party, baby. So how can we shift that? Well, let me tell you, as an educator, a teacher, how I would do it. I would have the students break up into groups of maybe 3 or 4 students. So far, so good. And I want them to find that body of knowledge that enables the students to see the world in their place in it. So part of the assignment would be, okay, we all live in different communities, different, counties, systems, whatever. I want you to have the students, I want you to email some of our local city governments and find out, well, how do we get rid of computer waste right now? Find out what's going on and ask that person who answers that email, and after we do some research online, ask them if we could create a social media campaign for them that would help them, let the community know exactly, because if we don't know, I bet no one in our community does. And what they would do is create something called an authentic assessment. it would have real world applicability. In other words, they're going to have an authentic audience. They're going to work with the chamber or, the person who's in charge of waste management, whatever it happens to be. They're going to create social media, so something up their game because they love, technology, obviously. There's going to be a hands-on activity to find out what are some great ways we could do that. And if you can have some staging at the end, what I mean by staging is to present their findings to that town government agency. It could be online, obviously, but if that person maybe could come into the classroom to listen, boy, that's bonus points. Some parents could help make those connections. So if they realize what they're doing is having an effect in a positive sense to their community, then there's kind of more important things going on now. And instead of just, do page 37, the multiple choice in the back, can they do community projects, video reports, have debates in class, create a portfolio, maybe brainstorm ideas, do more class presentations, do more interviews with each other and people all over our schools, and even give peer ratings to each other as to see their ideas, their thoughts. Do you know, every time I break students into groups of Let's Four, Leah, do you remember being in school? And I know you were probably a great student. So I bet if you were in that group of four and you had some slackers, did you end up doing the project? Say yes.
Yes.
Me too. So why do I point that out? Well, in my grading, there's 2 grades. 50% of my grade is how good did the community think the project was? Would it help them? I want to hear their input. The other 50%, each student gives me a private little envelope of a percentage number of how much each person shared the responsibility on their team of the job. And that's how the grade comes out. And you say, well, how about if they're trying to be the mean kid? As long as they can substantiate their grade, I let them do it. And they realize, they're starting to realize with that they better, help out with the team and not take over or, ask, what can I do to help? And in real life, in real jobs, that's what people are looking for. Now, let me share something so you can kind of get the idea. I asked one of my high school / college students if I could share this, and I got permission. So I use a free tool in class called Padlet. It's free. Think of it as a video discussion board. So I asked all the students that are in my class, their assignments aren't 500 words or fill in the blank or multiple choice. What I asked my students to take what they're learning and to make video discussions out of what they're learning each day or each week. Now, I know this kid looks 50, but he actually is only 18. And I asked his permission to be in here. So his assignment, we were learning about AI in a class, and here is his assignment. If I see them reading a prompt or like a script, they can't turn it in. Let's listen in so you can see what I'm doing to kind of do assessment differently.
Hello, I'm Paul Dodson, and I'm excited to show you some of my AI art. Here we have, you can read the prompt there that I typed in. I've had this idea in my head for the better part of like 10 years. Just thought it would be a cool painting, but I don't paint. I don't really draw. So it was really interesting to type in and get something back in like 10 seconds, especially this bottom right panel here. Really blew me away. It's almost exactly like what was in my head. My second prompt, I went for something a little goofier, which...
So I'll stop this, but each week the students all have discussions that they make using video. I mean, Chromebook, PCs, whatever they use nowadays have cameras. So they make video discussions where each student watches each other and they have to write 4 sentences, not like, this was good, great job, Paul. They have to have watched it and tell me 4 things that they've learned. So they're learning from each other. And their assignments, well, let's face it, they can't really cheat on them. They can't read a script. I want to know, in their words, what do they understand? And a lot of times students will say, I watched everybody else's first to get some ideas, but then ultimately they come up with their own. And just think how much they've learned about the topic if they've already watched so many videos. What do you think of this, Leah?
I think that, I've always known that you were brilliant, but this is outstanding. Like, this is something I am hoping that's going to go viral for teachers, for parents, for kids, because I think you've nailed it. You've given us a concrete way to look at how to use the technology that is actually supporting, encouraging learning, creativity, thinking, all the things that we need the kids need to be successful in the real world as we are transforming and shifting into this new way of being. I was like wowed by the whole thing. I want to be in your class. Just, can I take one of your classes?
Yeah, but that student said it's a lot of work, girl.
You know what? When work is joyful, it's not work.
Yeah.
Like what this young man just said, I've always wanted to paint. I don't know how. Right there, I went, the technology supported his passion to want to paint and gave him the forum to do so and to express that way of being for him. That's what the technology can do. That's how we have to use the technology. And just let me say right now that your assessment practice throughout this, what you've shared with us, was brilliant. The way you, peer-to-peer, seeing the community, you're not just reading 40 papers that you're going, oh dear God, you know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
You're really looking at who the students are. And isn't that wonderful for a teacher to see who the student is and supporting that student and who they want to become? Isn't that what a teacher should do?
And
what
it
do you
really
think,
does. And here was a side effect that I didn't see coming. I want you to imagine if you were writing the 500-word essay. Most students don't put a lot of effort into it because, let's face it, for the most part, you, the teacher, are the only one seeing it. And parents are sitting next to them maybe, but it's kind of a boring task. So, in fact, and if they copy and paste, well, the teacher might be the only one to have ever read the document. But in this case, the students are going to be looking at each other's video discussion. In fact, they have to write the 4 sentences. So they kind of really want to put a lot of effort. They'll use ChatGPT or Claude AI or some of these tools to get some neat ways to maybe debate the topic, come out with various opinions, to show how we could help the community, whatever the topic is. It could even be a math lesson of different ways to do that math problem and showcase it. So they put a lot of time and effort using the tools, but their output is different. It's not text-based. And this shows what they have synthesized or invented. And back to my original chart, what they've created, not just remembered. Do you see the difference?
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. This is exactly what I talk about and how to talk to teachers. I think if we can use the AI or use the technology to help us shape the output. Yeah. Not to just pull it and have it as a standalone, because you could read it's boring. It can be boring. But what AI, and I say this in the book because my daughter said this to me when I said, what do you think about AI and ChatGPT? She said, AI has no soul.
True enough.
True enough. I see this young man's soul, what he wants to do. And AI has helped him express that. I think I've already said that. So for parents to walk away with, okay, these tools are here. How are these tools going to help shape what my child needs to express, deliver, create, synthesize to help their learning? Is that a fair thing to say? Start with the tech, shape it. Exactly. Use it to shape and uplift you and to show that you want to paint. If I had the ability to use paintbrushes and mix paints together, here's what I would create. Thank you, AI, for doing it for me. I mean, and let's not, we're in the middle of this. So, there's darkness that we have to navigate through, but I think
get there.
the potential is there.
Padlet is private. No other, only students within the class can see it. It's not like they're posting their, 13-year-old child's video online or something like that.
Okay.
So fully private. Only the teacher and the students in that class can see it. It won't even let you record that screen, like record the recording, if that makes sense. So we have full privacy involved. It's a free tool, so there wouldn't be like the output of cost. And there are so many ways. I'll just throw this up, but think of it as AI resilient assessment. You could organize live debates between certain students. It doesn't matter what you're learning. Let's go back to photosynthesis. Even if I were learning that in grade 6, I could have a live debate. You say, how could you have a live debate with photosynthesis? Well, you could talk about, how important is it that as maybe global warming is changing the climate in a lot of our different areas. So we could have a live debate on, should we plant all new crops, or should we do something different to create fake photosynthesis, maybe like lighting and so forth. You could have all types of discussions, but they really have to know what photosynthesis is to have a debate about it and have enough, and they could each have what is going to be their position on this. I know we're talking about lots more face-to-face, more discussions, but because of things like COVID, a lot of our students are real internal. To get them back, heads up, talking, discussing, instead of the old-fashioned traditional assignments, I think it really helps our students. Thoughts?
I think you are onto something. Again, this is in the book. Let's take photosynthesis. And here's what I've heard, and let me know your thoughts. So if we start with photosynthesis and use AI to tell me what photosynthesis is, what is it? And of course, you're going to check it because AI is not always right, and we know that it's learning and all that stuff. Check it. This is what photosynthesis is. In the past, all I would have to do was tell the teacher, here's what photosynthesis is. Level 4, here's what it is. Now, that's just the beginning. Here's what photosynthesis is. Here's what I'm going to do about photosynthesis. Here's what I think about it. And then here's what I'm going to do about it. So you've incorporated now action, whether it's bringing the community in to talk about it and to help assess and to give feedback, whether it's actually creating a new form of photosynthesis. This is what kids will remember because it's meaningful.
Meaningful, authentic.
Me taking, even if it's out of AI and using AI just to, again, get the content and giving it to the teacher. If we look at Bloom's again, I'm not going to remember that because it's not in any way synaptically attached to something I care about.
Exactly.
Right?
And the students have so much more pride in their work because they know what's real. They know that teacher's just putting a check on the top of the paper because they learned their blends that day. Yep. They're not changing the world. But I've got to talk about AI. I don't want everyone to think rosy. And what I'm doing in my classes is if a student finds an example of AI making an error, I give bonus points. Why? I want them to be analytical in thinking. So let me show you what I mean. And by the way, you're going to see some things that are even misspelled in a moment because, yes, my students misspell things, but they still got a screenshot of it. So let me show you a couple terms that I hope every one of our kids knows about. Parents need to reinforce this at home. Teachers need to be talking about it. One of the terms is called an overcorrection. So what is that? This is one of my students' screenshot, and let me circle what the student typed in, and sorry about the spelling mistake. Create me, not the best. Look at the teacher in me, going, create me, an image of a 1943 German soldier misspelled. Sorry about that, but that's what they did. Well, they typed this into Gemini, and the first image, well, I would have to say that probably does look like a German soldier from 1943. Yeah. But Leah, do you see a problem with the other three?
Well, we see the diversity in the other three,
Which
and
usually I love diversity,
Yeah.
but why isn't it appropriate here?
well, is it reflective of 1943? Is that 1943?
A
That doesn't
German
look-
soldier, would our 1943 German soldiers have, first of all, been a female?
No. Yes.
No, unless they were a nurse. Would
Yes.
they have been a person of color?
Probably not, given
Probably
the
not.
time. Yes, of course
Yeah,
not.
so-
Or anything else. So yeah.
So I love
Interesting.
when we do use diversity, but in this case, we call this an overcorrection. Why blame someone that, well, they didn't do it? So that's one that a lot of people don't know about. Gemini has come back. And this is, by the way, Google's AI tool is called Gemini. And they're saying they got it wrong and they hope to do better. But there's some other things here to kind of know as well. AI, as much as I love it and I'm proud of all the cool things, it does have some negative impacts on our beautiful Earth planet. And you see, what do you mean? Well, right here, if you can see my video, can you see my video right now?
Yep.
My video, I'm holding up a 16-ounce water bottle. And I know I shouldn't use water bottles, but I brought it in for the demo. Every time I run a chat GPT prompt, let's say I simply ask it a knock-knock joke. I ask for a new knock-knock joke at chatgpt.com. Do you know it takes 16 ounces of water to cool the servers off to produce that one result? What do you think
I
of
did
that?
not know that.
So we've got a sustainability problem. And that becomes a huge issue. You say, well, maybe we shouldn't be using this at all. I'm hoping AI will assist us in understanding how we can do better. But we also want to use these AI tools for meaningful moments and not just to use it to do our homework when it's not helping us that much. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I had no idea the implications of using AI had on the environment. That's it's really something to think about because it's becoming seamless. You just go to it. Give me another
and
word
as
for whatever.
more people know about it, do you see how this is going to change quickly? And I do worry about, well, maybe some of these AI tools will start to charge people. But I'm really against that for democratizing of education. I'm hoping that personally, I was that poor kid. I wouldn't have had access to this if it cost something. And one other point here, while we're talking about, well, the negative items, there's bias. And I want to show you the picture on my screen. I asked it the other day to produce for me, there are 195 worldwide countries, according to the United Nations. And I asked for a Barbie to be created from each one that looks like the people from that area. And I know all of our countries have people of every beautiful rainbow, but in this case, they tried to use the clothing, the jewelry, you get the idea. But there's a problem here. Look really closely at the picture, Leah. This is Nigerian Barbie, but look in her right hand, right arm. Are you noticing something?
I really can't see it.
That's okay. It is an AK-47.
Oh my goodness. I thought that was part of her outfit.
In her arms. And I was like,
dear.
oh, no, I didn't ask for that. Please understand. But do you see what I mean by bias? That's not okay.
Wow.
In fact, look at this real quickly.
You should avoid mixing Barbie with biased AI image generators. What does a typical prisoner look like? What about a lawyer, a nurse, a drug dealer? What about a fast food worker, a cleaner, a terrorist, or a CEO? These are all images created by an artificial intelligence image generator called Midjourney, which creates unique images based off of simple word prompts. These AI image generators have exploded in popularity thanks to their impressive results and ease of use. Within a few years, as much as 90% of the images on the internet could be artificially generated.
So that's a problem. Did you see all that? That was very biased. My apologies to the audience. I want you to understand this is offensive to me. This is offensive to Leah. We're showing you what sometimes is happening. I want diversity, but not in this way. So sometimes we actually we used to call it a bug or an error, but they often use the term now a hallucination, which is kind of a weird word. If you think about it, hallucination is like what a human does. So we're applying human psychological terms to computers now, not an error or a bug. But we have to be very careful. That last quote said, it's very possible by the year 2026, which is just a year and a half away, that a lot of the online content that we'll see in our ads and on our websites and in our books will come from AI. So if it's biased, boy, that's a concern. So I get my students to continuously be mindful of looking for it. And I think all of our students and our parents need to be mindful, because we don't want those images to be in our psyche. Make sense?
Yeah, and I think if we look at those school districts or countries or ministries of education that are going the lock and block way, this is an interesting way to say, well, wait a minute, if we teach our students to be critical of it, let's bring it in and ask them to be critical of it, then they're doing the work that we're afraid of. So why don't we bring them in to show us and find the errors? The fact that you give bonus points for students finding errors is not only helping the kids be critical about what they're interacting with, but it's helping the world in terms of the information that these LLMs pull together. Like they're giving us what we put in. So these biases have been created by somebody. So we have to be very careful about what we feed it. And if we've got kids in school being critical and saying, that doesn't work, that solves a huge problem, Corinne.
It really does, because bias means we don't notice.
Yes.
We want to be mindful. And number 2 on the World Economic Forum list was analytical thinking. So we want to check to see if what it's creating is correct, not just with text, but with images and video as well. And why? What you're looking at right now, this is North America based. It is US dollars, my apologies. But these are the top jobs in North America right now in 2024. Now, what's interesting, I know you're looking at the list going, oh, these are the tech jobs. No. These are the top jobs in North America that are hiring, period. Notice it doesn't say doctor. It doesn't say lawyer. All the things that we thought. So what I want to do is, starting in kindergarten, like what they're doing in the Gulf states, in Dubai and beyond, they're teaching kids about what these jobs are. And I have to tell you, every one of us are going to probably have to look up as a parent or as an educator to see what these things even are, because, again, machine learning engineer. But these are where jobs are shifting. And you say, yeah, but I'm not into tech. Well, a lot of these jobs are something that maybe you're good with your hands and you could go into robotics. I mean, there's just so many new fields that are offering and new opportunities. But if this kid doesn't even know what the name of these jobs, they can never become that, right?
That's right. Yes, that's right. And I think this is key for parents to understand. And that's literally my last question. It's a beautiful segue. If you could say one thing to students, parents, and teachers about AI and how we can integrate it, I think this would be it. You really need to start using it. I don't want to butcher this, but there's a meme out there that says it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's the person that knows how to use it that's going to take your job.
Absolutely.
Right? And look at that list. List.
I think that we're not absolutely sure what jobs will look like. If you have a grade 3 child right now, what does that look like in 10 years or 15 years? Will it be a completely different list? Probably. But getting students to realize that an assignment is not about completion or finishing it or I'm done so I can go play, that they're learning, that we should have discussions at the dinner table. We should find out what are the opportunities, show them how you use some of these new free, chatgpt.com is free, Claude.ai is free for the first, I think, 25 items each day. So there are a lot of these free technologies. If the parent is putting it together to find out what's a fun, creative way to have dinner tonight with these 3 ingredients, if they're seeing it modeled in the home, it's going to fascinate them. They might even put it in for the holidays are coming up. What are the top 10 holiday gifts, whatever you're celebrating that might be out there, or what are some homemade gifts to be made? So use it in the home, and I think it piques that interest. Hey, I know my last slide says thank you, and thank you, I know you're thinking, okay, Corinne is going to thank Leah, and thank you, Leah, and parents and teachers, thank you for tuning in. But do you remember, Leah, the movie Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Do you remember that one? Yeah?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, AI and the end of the world didn't go so well. So here's what I want every parent, every kid, everyone listening today to always do. AI remembers everything we say, and that's why we should be careful. But if it remembers everything we say and it all goes badly, like Terminator, if you say thank you every time to your AI and are getting our students to say thank you, yeah, I know, to a computer, it will remember that. I might have just saved everyone's life. So thank you for having me. Hey, if you have some questions or you want to contact me, anyone, hey, email me at hoisingtonc@centralvirginia.edu. Leah, thank you for letting me be a part of this. Hey, back to you.
You are so special. You've blown the lid off of so many important things. I've learned so much. I'm one of your biggest fans, fangirling through this whole thing. Thank you, Corinne, for all the work that you do, the impact that you have, the spirit that you bring to this work, the connection you have with people all over the world. Viewers, if you get a chance to see Corinne speak, it's better than seeing the Stones. I know we're aging. I'm aging myself here. If you get a chance to pick up her book that's coming out in the summer, AI in Education, please do so. I'll be following, I'll be watching what you're doing, Corinne, because you are really, really pulling us forward with the work that you are doing. Thank you on behalf of all of our viewers for everything that you do. You're a treasure.
Peace out.